He can't Philadelphia coming in, just that matchup. Playing a team that's also trying to get a 1 seed as well. Right there.
And they're saw last night, they're a complete team with James added to the mix. The pick and roll play is something that we haven't seen with Embiid. Normally it's ISO at the block, ISO at the nail, and him just kind of playing his game, which he's played at an MVP level. But now you add James to the mix. That pick and roll is a bit different for any team that's played against Philly since that trade. So couple that with the shooting they have around him, and then their defense is still at a high level because Joel just patrols the paint. They have veteran guys around the perimeter. Just watching them last night, they were really efficient on both ends of the floor. They're like us. They're a contending team fighting for a lot. And we know that there's a lot of things you have to account for when you play against them.
Looking at this, it seems like even after what you guys are already accomplished, it's still that energy that, hey, still more work.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked earlier in the year about the word excellence, and we wanted to have a standard of 7 to 10. Some people talk about the scale of 1 to 10. We don't want our level to ever drop below 7. And so that's really hard to do. But the guys have embraced it. In the midst of all the things that we're trying to do as a team, we want to celebrate the accomplishments, but hold on to the intensity and the pursuit of excellence as best we can. And again, I'll reiterate, it's just hard, but our guys have committed to it all season long.
Looks like Cam was able to get some run-in today. How's he progressing?
He did everything that he could do today. We didn't do any 5-on-5 because we're just at that point in the season where it's not smart right now for us to do it. But he did everything today. He looked pretty good as far as getting up and down the floor. His conditioning wasn't terrible. I thought he'd be lacking there, but he's still in progression mode right now. He's not in a situation or in a position where we're saying he's playing in the next couple of days. We still got to wait and see how his body responds to days like today.
Joel Embiid and James Harden, I think they're both top 3 in free throws.
Yeah.
What are the keys to keeping guys like that off the free throw line? Still playing the brand of physical defense.
You gotta be in a first team ready body position at a high level type mindset against those guys. If you're a step late, you're gonna foul. Joel in the post, James driving the ball. Joel is creating contact with his shot motion. James does it when he's attacking the basket. The more you can show your hands and the more you can beat guys to a spot, it helps. They've gone through the league already and they're, I think, 1 and 3, right? So you're just trying to if you can cut down 2 or 3 of those attempts, that really helps you. Well, it's difficult. The whole league has struggled with it. I think the more that we can, get back in transition and form a wall and see things coming at you, it helps. But they're both dynamic and strong and crafty. I'll say that.
Monty, you often say load management, a trucking company in Texas. You guys have clinched. I'm just curious if the thought process changes in terms of the extremes, like letting guys sit a day or 2, or more maybe realistic with cutting back minutes for guys returning. It's just where your thought process changes at all, if it does, with these 8 games.
We're trying to come up with a plan. We had to get to this point. And we've started the process of talking to the medical team about what's smart. At the same time, there's a unreal balance there of being competitive, guys who have individual goals that they want to achieve, and we understand that. It's certainly unfamiliar territory for me. I've been a part of it as an assistant, but never as a head coach. We're going to be smart. There's opportunities to rest guys. I think we have one back-to-back left, so that might be an opportunity. We don't know just yet. Chris has to get back up to his conditioning level, so he and Cam Johnson, when Cam does get back, we got to work those guys back into the kind of shape they need to be in. There's other guys that have, situations where we may pull them back a little bit, but we'll probably, talk about that from game to game. But there is somewhat of a plan that's going to be formed in the next, couple days or so.
I would assume that same week you guys got last week because of the plan that you get this week helps with that as well.
I think so. I think the weeks are different just because of where we are from a record standpoint, but I think when you go through the kind of travel we went through last week, it certainly helps. We want to keep our rhythm. We want to keep the mindset and we want to keep the edge as we finish out this part of the season. And yet there's, the old adage of you got to be smart, trying to figure out, I asked all of the coaches with all of their experience, what we should do. And there was 4 or 5 different answers, and I don't think there is a right answer. I think you just have to weigh the pros and cons of sitting guys out, but also try to figure out how they feel from day to day. We don't practice like we did 20 years ago. So I think guys are a lot fresher than they normally would be. And we're going to, listen to their bodies, but also understand, we want to be fresh when it's time to be fresh, but we don't want to lose rhythm. That's a delicate balance.
With home court clinch, I was curious if you could look back on last year. Did you sense, so you were 7-1 in those first 2 games of each series. Did you sense the guys were more comfortable starting the playoff series at home and that it helped in that way?
It may have, especially having a team go through it for the first time. I'm sure it did, to have playoff game start in your place. I don't think any of us anticipated our crowd being like that. I mean, it became somewhat of a nationally talked about thing, and I think that helped. I know when I came out the first time and experienced our playoff crowd, I was like, wow, this is different. And I think that helped our guys. So I think we've shown that we can win on the road. So I know that our guys can do it, but I do think as it relates to last year, it was a benefit to start at home.
Was there a loudest moment for you? I know often you're so zoned in on the game, you don't realize when the crowd's up, but does one stand out to you when I mention that?
Gosh, man. I mean, there were so many moments. I don't know. I think to start the finals here, that was unbelievably loud to the point where I noticed it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I went back to idiot mode. But you notice it. I mean, you can't. I'm not that crazy, man. There's times, when that song is playing in the beginning, we ain't going nowhere song. I'm like, that gets you hyped, and I think that's cool. I think our guys should feel it. I feel it. I had no idea that our place would turn into what it's turned into when we came here. And I think it's an unreal advantage. And I'm so grateful for the fan base when they come out and cheer our guys on, man. It is an amazing atmosphere. And I don't remember it being like that when we used to come here and play against the Suns. Even when Nash was hitting Stoudemire for dunks, it was loud, but I don't remember it being like this.
One of the things that, to get back to your point about I've asked the Papa about this maybe a month ago. He rounded off 5 or 6 things. I'm like, okay, there's no exact science to this at all. Is that
same way? I mean, I'm going to talk to him here soon and try to figure out not the right thing, but the most effective thing. Because I think if you pigeonhole yourself into trying to figure out the right thing, you're probably going to waste time, because I don't think there's a right answer. I think there's some things that we can do to be effective in this situation. And I'm going to try to get as much wisdom as I can from James. Has been in it before. I'm going to talk to him. Our medical team understands where our guys are from a load perspective. But then I'll have talks with the players. We have players that play a lot of minutes, but what we're trying to do is pretty hard. So to think it's going to be easy that's pyrite. In case you don't know what that is, it's fool's gold.
All right.
Pyrite.
You mentioned Chris needing to sort of play himself back in the rhythm. Does that make your life any easier? You don't have to tell him you need to sit a little bit here in these last 8 games?
Nah, Chris and I talk basketball, family, all kinds of stuff almost every day. So those conversations aren't hard. Even when I take him out when he doesn't want to come out, he trusts me. You know what I'm saying? And there are times where he's like, "Coach, let me go," and I'm like, "Okay," because I trust him. So I think with all of our guys, we've built up that kind of trust. So I don't think they're hard conversations. I just think they are conversations that need to be had so you can, get to a place where you're both comfortable.
I know you've been endorsing guys for awards that your entire team has been endorsing you for coach of the year. How do you do that when every time we ask a player about coach of the year, they're like, "This is a brand or why we have this conversation with the coach?"
Again, man, I'm last year when I didn't get it, one of the coolest things happened. I was in my office and I finished media, so I leave my door open and I can hear everything. They don't even know what I can hear, but I can hear everything. And I just sit in my office and I just laugh because some of the funniest things are said in that hallway. Players, coaches, they're just, before that it's shut and I don't want anybody to bother me except Jesus. It's like, well, I'm in my office and I just so happen to be watching the announcement of it. And Tibbs won. And I heard everybody in the hallway. They were so stinking upset and ticked, and there were some things said. And I was like, that was enough for me. You know what I mean? Like I didn't need anything else. I didn't need an award. I didn't need validation. That was what did it for me. And I feel the same way. You don't go into the season thinking I want to be the coach of the year. You go into the season thinking I want to help my players, help our players, help the organization continue to grow and get better. But when you hear your players say those things about you, and when I saw the disgust that they had, I was like, no award can replace that. I sat in my office, almost started crying. You know what I mean? Because I was like, holy smokes. You have no idea how much they care about you. And so to hear them act that way, that was enough for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.